In some ways, it's got to suck to be a Saints fan because while you have one of the all-time great quarterbacks in NFL history, Drew Brees, as your dude, you have a really quality head coach in Sean Payton, and you have a young, talented roster. This is the second straight year you had a great year in the regular season. 2018, you went 14-2, got the number one overall seed. You had home field advantage throughout the playoffs, meaning the road to Super Bowl 53, had to come to the Superdome, and it was a second straight heartbreaking playoff loss. I don't know if the Minneapolis Miracle or the no call is the worst way to end your playoff run, but that's 2 straight years of really just abysmally disappointing, horrendous ways to lose playoff games. And you have to wonder at some point in time, even with Sean Payton, even with Drew Brees, even with some of the other talent this team has, does that start to take a mental impact on this organization, on this team? And I think it potentially can. Because it's hard to continue to come back from that and think that everything's going to be exactly the same and you just march right back in, you get right back into that same spot again. And so often is the case in the NFL, it just doesn't happen. Especially for a team in the Saints that did not add a ton via the draft. I mean, you drafted Eric McCoy, the interior lineman from Texas A&M, added Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the safety from Florida. But you didn't have the first-round pick because of the trade-up last year for Marcus Davenport, who occasionally flashed, but still, not nearly the level of production you would have wanted out of a guy that you gave up so much for to go get in the 2018 draft. Now, I look at this New Orleans Saints team without a lot of real roster improvements, without a lot of real changes. The past 2 years seemingly have been in really good position and ultimately screwed the pooch due to a variety of different factors. I really got to wonder if this is the year that you see a little bit of regression. Now, they still have Drew Brees and Sean Payton. And that makes a difference. That makes a significant difference. You have a clear-cut leadership at the top, and you know who's calling the shots on the field in terms of your future first-ballot Hall of Famer, the true face of the franchise, the once-and-forever greatest Saint in the history of the organization, Drew Brees. And it's one of those things, again, I've talked about it before when it comes to Drew Brees, even if he fell off a cliff in 2019, if he wants to play in 2020, you have no choice, but you got to keep playing him. So he has meant that much to that city. He has meant that much to that organization. He will always be the New Orleans Saints, period. And having those two guys in that offense gives you a chance to win most every single week. I look at that offensive line. It was a really, really good unit last year, and I expect them to be the same again in 2019. You don't have Mark Ingram anymore, but you still have Alvin Kamara. You got to feel like this is going to be potentially a huge season for him, that he will be the unquestioned primary ball carrier. I look at them defensively. Their run defense was really good last year, and I expect it to be perhaps similar here in 2019. But still some question marks for this team. I look at their receiving core. Outside of Michael Thomas and Kamara out of the backfield, what do you really have? There are no other difference makers, no other real game changers. And if a Kamara or a Thomas gets hurt, then as much as you could say, well, you've got Drew Brees and you've got a system, so you have some belief in that. Yeah, but at some point in time, you need those guys that can make things happen. They have guys right now that can make things happen, but they don't have enough of them. And that concerns me a little bit. Then I look at the pass defense, and I say, even with the Marshawn Lattimores and the Eli Apples and the Von Bells and so forth, Marcus Williams, you look at this secondary, it's young, but it didn't always play well last year. Their pass defense in particular was not very good. And you worry about that. Because if you get into situations where you need a defensive stop, our team's just going to be able to throw kind of at will on you. And then most importantly for me, I look at this team and I'm concerned about the mental hangover from last year and the last 2 years. That's asking a lot for a team to be able to come back after 2 straight truly disappointing playoff losses. To be able to say, hey, let's get ready and do it again. That was last year and now we're on to this year. I don't know. And you look at their early schedule. They host Houston on Monday night, week 1. Then they go to the Rams and to the Seahawks the next 2 weeks. And then they come back and host Dallas, who beat them last year in the regular season. Granted, that was in Dallas, but they still beat them. You could see for the New Orleans Saints, that's a tough opening month of the schedule. And you could very easily see this team going, if they lose both of the road games, then they go 2-2. They lose one of the home games and both of the road games. You're talking about 1-3. And if this team, based off of the past couple of years, starts off the gate out of the gate kind of slow, that could be really worrisome. Now, you've seen in the recent couple of seasons where the Saints have lost a game or two to start off the season, and it didn't matter. But I feel like it's just a feeling, and I'm probably wrong. The first time won't be the last time. There's just something that rubs me a little wrong about this team this year. It feels like they're playing with fire, and this might be the season they get burned. I still think they're a good team. I don't want to totally bet against a Sean Payton coach, Drew Brees led team. I still think they're a playoff team, but I think they're more of a 10-win type of team this go round that sneaks into the wild card, as opposed to the team last year that was 14-2 and ended up getting home field advantage throughout. I just ready and prepared to see the Saints take a small step back this upcoming season.